This is a reading from the Transfer of Property Act 1882. And I won't read all of but y'all could skim through it. Deposit in court. Suits for foreclosure, sale, or redemption. Foreclosure and sale. Redemption. Charges. Notice and tender. Mohammedan law. Here we are, Transfer of Property Act 1882, Act number 4 of 1882, 17th February 1882, an act to amend the law relating to the transfer of property by act of parties. Preamble, whereas it is expedient to define and amend certain parts of the law relating to the transfer of property by act of parties, it is hereby enacted as follows. Chapter 1, the preamble, short title, this act may be called the Transfer of Property Act 1882. Commencement, it shall come into force on the first day of July 1882. Extent, it extends to the first instance to the whole of India except the territories which immediately before the 1st of November 1956 were comprised in Part B states and in the states of Bombay, Punjab, and Delhi. And this is in India, remember? But this act or any part thereof may be notification in the official gazette be extended to the whole or any part of the said territories by the state government concerned, and any state government may from time to time by notification in the official gazette exempt either retrospectively or prospectively any part of the territories administered by such state government from all and any of the following provisions, namely Section 54, paragraph 2 and 3, 59, 107, and 123. Notwithstanding anything in the foregoing part of this section, Section 54, paragraph 2 and 3, 59, 107, and 123 shall not extend or be extended to any district or tract of country for the time being excluded from the operation of the Indian Registration Act 1908, 16 of 1908, under the power conferred by the first section of that act, or otherwise, 2. Repeal of acts, saving of certain enactments, incidents, rights, liabilities, etc., in the territories to which this act extends for the time being, the enactments specified in the schedule thereto annexed shall be repealed to the extent therein mentioned. But nothing herein contained shall be deemed to affect A, the provisions of any enactment not hereby expressly repealed. B, any terms or incidents of any contract or constitution of property which are consistent with the provisions of this act and are allowed by the law for the time being in force. C, any right or liability arising out of a legal relationship constituted before this act comes into force, or any relief in respect of any such right or liability, or D, save as provided by Section 57 and Chapter 4 of this Act, any transfer by operation of law or in execution of a decree or order of a court of competent jurisdiction, and nothing in the second chapter of this act shall be deemed to affect any rule of Mohammedan law. India. 3. Interpretation clause. In this act, unless there is something repugnant in this subject or context, movable property does not include standing timberland, growing crops, or grass. Instrument means a non-testamentary instrument. Attested in relation to an instrument means and shall be deemed always to have meant attested by two or more witnesses, each of whom has seen the executant sign or affix his mark to the instrument, or has seen some other person sign the instrument in the presence and by the direction of the executant, or has received from the executant a personal acknowledgement of his signature or mark, or of the signature of such other person, and each of whom has signed the instrument in the presence of the executant. But it shall not be necessary that more than one of such witnesses shall have been present at the same time, and no particular form of attestation shall be necessary. Registered means registered in any part of the territories to which this act extends under the law for the time being in force, regulating the regulations of documents. Attached to the earth means A, rooted in the earth, as in the case of trees and shrubs. B, embedded in the earth, as in the case of walls or buildings. Or C, attached to what is so embedded for the permanent beneficial employment of that to which it is attached. Actionable claim means a claim to any debt other than the debt secured by mortgage of immovable property, or by hypothecation or pledge of immovable property, or of movable property. Immovable property, or by hypothecation or pledge of movable property, or to any beneficial interest in movable property, not in the possession, either actual or constructive, of the claimant, which the civil courts recognize as affording grounds for relief, whether such debt or beneficial interest be existent, occurring, conditional, or contingent. A person is said to have notice of a fact when he actually knows that fact, or when, but for willful abstention from the inquiry or search which he ought to have made, or gross negligence, he would have known it. Explanation I. Where any transaction relating to immovable property is required by law to be and has been affected by a registered instrument, any person acquiring such property or any part of, or shall, or interest in such property shall be deemed to have notice of such instrument as from the date of registration, or where the property is not all situated in one sub-district, or where the registered instrument has been registered under subsection 2 of Section 30 of the Indian Registration Act 1908, 16 of 1908, from the earliest date on which any memorandum of such registered instrument has been filed by any sub-registrar within those sub-district of whose sub-district any part of the property which is being acquired, or of the property wherein a share or interest is being acquired, is situated, provided that 1. The instrument has been registered and its registration completed in the manner prescribed by the Indian Registration Act 1908, 16 of 1908, and the rules made thereunder. 2. The instrument or memorandum has been duly entered or filed, as the case may be, in books kept under Section 51 of that Act. And 3. The particulars regarding the transaction to which the instrument relates have been correctly entered in the indexes kept under Section 55 of that Act. Explanation 2. Any person acquiring any immovable property or any share or interest in any such property shall be deemed to have notice of the title, if any, of any person who is for the time being in actual possession thereof. Explanation 3. A person shall be deemed to have had notice of any fact if his agent acquires notice thereof whilst acting on his behalf in the course of business to which that fact is material, provided that if the agent fraudulently conceals the fact, the president shall not be charged with notice thereof as against any person who has a party to or otherwise cognizant of the fraud. 4. Enactments relating to contracts to be taken as part of Contract Act or supplemental to the Registration Act. The chapters and sections of this act which relate to contracts shall be taken as part of the Indian Contract Act 1872, 9 of 1872, and sections 54, paragraph 2 and 3, 59, 107, and 123 shall be read as supplemental to the Indian Registration Act 1908, 16 of 1908. When we come back, we're going to hit chapter 2. I'm going to do these in chapters. When we get back, chapter 2 of transfers of property by act of parties.